Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that montage of Los Angeles Comic-Con. I had a great time at the show, like I always do, and I also was able to pick up a lot of great books as well. So now that we're on the other end of the montage, of course, we got to do the fun part and flip through the books and talk about why I picked them up, and I'll tell you what I paid for them. I didn't go too crazy overall at the show, although I did spend about $450. I guess that's pretty crazy. I mean, depending on your budget. I mean, I don't know what you guys think is crazy or not. But I did pick up a lot of great books, and I'm excited to talk about them. Some Avengers books, of course, some other keys as well. But before I get into the books, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, doing those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into this haul here today. All right, the first book I was able to pick up for myself is one that I think actually made the montage. And this is a book that I've actually never owned before. But the book, of course, I'm talking about is Submariner #1, the big premiere issue. First solo series, Silver Age solo series for the Submariner character. Of course, this book has been one that has probably been, in your guys' comic book spheres for quite some time at this point. Obviously, we're coming off of Wakanda Forever. Submariner made his debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in that movie. And this book right here has been one that had been heavily spec'd on for quite some time. Now, for me, Submariner is a character that I've always thought was pretty cool, but he's definitely never been like my guy, right? So I never really needed to have this book, but if I ever came across it at a pretty good price, I would definitely pick it up. And this one right here, I was able to get for $110, which I thought that was pretty fair. Now, of course, as you guys will notice right there in the corner, it has that Silver Age thing where sometimes they would clip off the corner, I guess when these books got returned or whatever the history of them may be. So this one would definitely be a low grade version of this book, but ultimately I'm okay with that because the reason I did pick it up is because this was one of the last big premiere books that I needed to have. I just had to collect them all. I mean, if you notice on the wall behind me in the middle row, it is a very specific aesthetic with what I like to have on it. A lot of it is, the first solo titles for the characters. Didn't have this one. This one will definitely go on the wall just from an aesthetic point of view for me. And this is just a cool book, one that has definitely been correcting pretty hard. I remember doing one of the Go Collect videos where I was talking about this book, and I sort of asked the question, like, how do you guys feel about Submariner? Like, is he like a flip character? And in my opinion, I was always a little bit suspicious that his books, FF4 and this Submariner #1, were going to be able to hold the prices that they were commanding even earlier in the year due to the fact that, like, all of a sudden it seemed like there were a million Submariner super fans. And I was like, where have all these Submariner super fans come from? Like, I didn't know that there was actually a whole like group of people that collected Submariner. I mean, I'm sure that there always were, but it definitely felt like there was a lot of hype for this character, even more so than that of other MCU characters that were coming. And it does kind of show that the prices have corrected because it does feel like there were a lot of people that were looking to kind of sell back into the market when he made his debut. But regardless, I still think this is a very cool book, a very cool, a big premiere issue is always going to be satisfying to own, and I'm happy to add it to the collection. All right, this next book I got right here is a first appearance of a character who also I've never owned this book before, but I was really, really happy to pick it up when I saw the price that was being asked for it. And the next book I got is actually Luke Cage, Hero for Hire #1. Now, I was able to get this one for $100 minus 20. I was able to get it for $80 right here, which I thought was a pretty good price to get this first appearance. I mean, definitely a low grade version of this book, probably would grade out to be, a 3 or a 3.5, maybe if I got it at press or so. But, a cool book regardless. Of course, there's been a lot of excitement for the Netflix characters, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, all these characters like that. A lot of speculation that they might be showing up in the MCU. And I definitely feel like, Punisher seems like he's pretty much a shoo-in. Jessica Jones, there's been a lot of speculation with her. I would assume that that actress is coming back to the MCU. And then Luke Cage is kind of in that space where it's like, it feels like Marvel would want to have this character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but are they going to bring back that actor? That seems to me like it's still in question. But regardless, I feel like this is a really good book to pick up. I like this one actually more than the first appearance of Iron Fist, being that this is a 1972 book. It's also got the black cover factor. Not that that matters for my book because mine is super beat up, but I do like this book, in the future as one that might be good to hold or invest in. I feel like Luke Cage has a lot of potential as a character that could be, significant in pop culture. And I really do think that this is a cool book, a great cover overall. So I was really, really happy to find that one for $80. All right, these next two books I got in tandem together, and one of them, obviously, I think in my montage, or at least if I'm well, cat's out of the bag. I'm recording this before I actually edited the montage, but I will definitely have included this one. And I was able to get this in the pile of books that I was flipping through. But the first one I got is Wolverine #1, first issue, first solo series for the Wolverine character, at least the ongoing solo series in 1988. And I was also able to pick up this other cool key book in that run as well, the Wolverine #8, the cover by John Buscema with Patch next to Mr. Fix-It right here. These two books are definitely, in my opinion, the best keys of this particular run. There's a couple other interesting Wolverine books. People like that Sabretooth #10 or Wolverine #10 with a Sabretooth cover. People like the John Byrne covers and the Jim Lee covers. But for my money, these are the two coolest to own. And probably #8 even more so than that. I actually do think that #8 is a really cool Copper Age book, probably underrated. It's one of those books where I'm not going to say that I never see it, but generally speaking, every single comic store you go to, every single show you go to is going to have a bin of Wolverine books. And it is very rare to see Wolverine #8 in that bin. I mean, maybe they're going to have it on the wall, but this is a book that I feel like everyone always picks up. And so able to get these books for $40 in combination together, so basically $20 each, and definitely worth it in my opinion, because as we all know, we're going to get Wolverine in the future. Maybe they'll do the Patch storyline with Madripoor. I definitely feel like we're going to have interactions of Wolverine and the Hulk at some point in the future. They're going to have to do that for fan service, so I can imagine a lot of these sort of Wolverine Hulk books getting really hot in the near future. All right, this next book right here is, of course, I had to satisfy my Golden Age fix. I had to find an EC book. And this one I was able to pick up off of my good friend Brad Sloan at FEF Comics. This one right here is Haunt of Fear #10, the great EC cover by Al Feldstein. This one is a really kind of underappreciated cover, or I don't know if it's underappreciated, but certainly the cover that people don't think of for Feldstein. Al Feldstein, of course, made some of the best Tales from the Crypt covers, in the early run where, we got the guy who's getting pulled into the grave, you got the guy who's falling into the quicksand. And aesthetically, I've always really loved Al Feldstein's work because it kind of has that Disney horror vibe. And I don't mean that in a negative way. There's just always a little bit of fun with the art and the aesthetics that he sort of draws. And this one right here is in that vein, kind of is in that mold of the Tales from the Crypt ones, but it's actually in the Haunt of Fear title. Brad had this one. He was able to get it for me, give it to me for $220. And I was happy to do that. I feel like with EC books, anytime you can get them for, I'd say, around $200. I think that that's a pretty decent pickup, generally speaking. Ideally less than that, but $200 is a pretty good entry point if you ask me, especially since this is a really beautiful, nice copy of it. It's definitely a mid-grade, but the gloss and the cover, it presents so nicely on this one. It's just the back has a little bit of soil and all that stuff. So this one I'm really excited to have. And it's definitely one that, if I ever send in books to be graded, sometime in the near future, I would heavily consider getting that one graded for sure. All right, this next book here is actually one that was given to me for free from my good friend Christian over at Elvine's Comics. Tomorrow I will have a video coming out as well where I do the thing where I talk to the dealers, ask them about the state of the market. I know you guys enjoy that. It's always really great to hear from them, and I definitely talked to Christian at it. And after, we were just talking about some books, and I was talking about this Daredevil #37 and how it is an underrated book and it's an amazing cover. I think that we're going to have some Daredevil, Doctor Doom interactions in the future. And I really do like these ones. Even though they're not keys necessarily, I do think that these books, there's another Daredevil, Doctor Doom cover in this run. I think these books are really, really great. And Christian was really, really cool about it. He was like, hey, why don't you just take it? I had mentioned I've never actually had it, and he was super, super kind and gave it to me. So really thoughtful of him. And this is just a great book. Super, super cool. Especially if you can find really high grade versions of this, because, these all black covers are really difficult to find in that extremely high grade. And generally speaking, I like picking up books like this that don't necessarily have too heavy of a spec value. They're just books that have great covers with iconic characters. And for that reason, usually these books have lower downside risk because they're just, appreciated. People aren't necessarily looking to spec on them, although inevitably they do get hot when those characters interact in some kind of movie. All right, the next few books, I'll kind of go through them in rapid succession here. Of course, I got a bunch of Avengers books, trying to complete my Avengers Grail run. The first one I got is actually an Avengers book I already own, but I decided to pick it up because it's such a great one for the price. This is Avengers number 16, just the great Avengers Assemble cover with Captain America on it. I believe this is also the first time that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver joined the Avengers, and I was able to get this one $5 off price sticker, so basically for $20. Low grade copy, of course. It's got tape all along the spine, but it didn't present too badly overall. So $20, definitely worth it if you ask me. This next book right here, Avengers number 31. Nothing really too significant about this. Just a book I needed to kind of fill my run. I mean, maybe there's some significance, but I can't think about it at the moment. But just kind of a run filler I needed to get. I was able to get that one for $15. This one right here, Avengers 34. I actually already own this book. This is the first appearance of the Living Laser. This is actually just a much nicer copy than the one I have. The colors on this one are very, very saturated, and I really felt like I wanted to kind of upgrade, so I'll move on with my other one. Got that one for $10. This one right here is a book that I talked about in my books to kind of invest in for $50. This is Avengers number 38. Actually, it was funny, when I made that video, I didn't actually own this book, and I gave myself FOMO and have been looking for this one very aggressively with every show I go to. But my rule for my Avengers run is I have to buy them in person. So this one right here is actually the first time that Hercules meets the Avengers, which is definitely kind of a cool little speckish thing. Certainly we're going to get that at some point in the future. It does feel like after they brought in Hercules for Thor Love and Thunder, we'll get Hercules stories. I definitely feel like there's a lot of potential for Hercules to sort of be like a fan favorite. Like there's a lot of comedy potential for a character like this. And being an all kind of red cover, I definitely think that this is a really, really cool book. Able to get that one for, I think, $25. And then the last book I was actually able to get is a very cool, sort of underrated book, in my opinion. This is Avengers number 55. It's a book I already own, but what is the significance of this? Well, this, of course, is the first appearance of the character known as Ultron. There's been a lot of speculation right now that, we're going to be getting that Vision Disney Plus show, and there's a lot of speculation that the villain of that show might be a returning Ultron. So this is a really cool book right now, in my opinion. I was actually able to get this one for $20. Definitely a steal. This Ultron book is one of those books where it got super hot in 2015, exploded onto the market, and it is one of the sort of best examples of books that haven't recovered in price. The prices for this book in 2015 across a lot of grades is actually higher than what the prices are for this book today. So it's definitely one that kind of shows, not all books necessarily recover, but it will be very, very interesting to see if we get Ultron back in the MCU. I want to see what the values of this book are going to hit, because if it does in fact go back up and showcase and demonstrate that a book, that peaked in 2015 can also get, some of those similar values when they eventually come back into the MCU. That'll be a really interesting case study for other characters like, Eternals, Shang-Chi, characters like that. Anyways, that is all for this video. That was my LA Comic-Con comic book haul. Before I wrap up, I'll talk a little bit about the show, just my general feel. Of course, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have that video where I talk to the dealers. But generally my sense of the show, being kind of in the market that we're in, was it was a pretty positive show overall. I mean, there was definitely a good turnout. I mean, Friday was a little bit thin, but Saturday and Sunday, it felt like there was a lot of foot traffic. And my sense of it was that there were definitely a lot of interested buyers. And even though this is totally anecdotal, I really did feel like there was a lot of younger buyers, which kind of surprised me. Like a lot of 20-year-olds buying comic books, which was cool to see. And, that's not something that I typically see. I feel like when I've gone to other comic book shows, it's usually been, favoring an older audience, especially if we're talking about like in the high-end vintage stuff. But it did feel like, there was a really good turnout and a fervor for comic books. More stuff, focused on kind of the bins, less so like the wall books, as that is normally the case. But, I think that that's a pretty good sign. And even though it's totally anecdotal, it could be something that is very positive for comic book collecting in the future. Anyways, that's all for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.